Welcome back to another episode of Ride Like a Local. For the next few episodes, we're going to take a look back at the Fort McMurray wildfire and how the Canadian riding community stepped up to help out. This week, you're going to meet Jeremy Hall, an extraordinary volunteer with an amazing story. I'm being joined right now by Jeremy Hall. He was one of the key volunteers and one of the first people to follow me into Mac Island in Fort McMurray. Jeremy, tell me why you decided heading to Fort McMurray was the right thing in your heart to do.
I guess bottom line, it just comes down to my background. It's the way I'm built. I'm a firefighter for quite a few years when I was younger. That doesn't really leave you. You called me and said that these guys need help, and that was all I really needed to hear. It's pretty easy.
That's kind of how I felt when I heard Darby Allen talking about his firefighters needing support. Now, each one of us, there were 6 core volunteers on the ground. And we had Matt Coffin, who lived in Fort McMurray. And then we had Dennis, a homeless guy. And we had Jody Hudek, and she also had lived in Fort McMurray. Yeah. And then there was you, myself, and Will Skinner in those first 3 days that were pretty much doing all the work. And then, of course, volunteer firefighter from who lives in Grovedale, Jessica Capel, who did a whole bunch of the logistics work. Now, let's talk a little bit about the roles and responsibilities we all just seem to naturally fall into. Because it was pretty cool. For 6 of us, we were helping 400 or 500 people per shift. And yet we never got in each other's way, and we managed to create a supply chain that was amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I think really what it comes down to is just what role we were willing to jump into, and with my background in number 1 firefighting, number 2 equipment operating, and managing people, owning a small business, it was pretty easy for me to kind of jump in as a management type role. Everybody kind of seemed to naturally come to me for answers as it was, and I'm not scared to give them. Sometimes you just need to make the tough decisions. Sometimes people have a hard time making them. I really don't. It's just what needs to get done right now. Politics and all the other crap can be put aside for a little while, and just roll with the punches that you're given, and do what you got to do to make it happen.
So there was Jessica. She was doing fuel and water and logistics in that regard, plus working on the front line, feeding people and giving them a break. You kind of, after that first day, after you were working on the hoe, you kind of fell into a role where you were doing a lot of logistics for getting things like windshield washer fluid and DAF fluid on top of organizing supplies as they were coming in from the various donators and that kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about that division of work and the things that you actually did starting after your first day there.
Well, after the first day, just kind of the end of day 2 when we finally got to have a little bit of a nap. But really what it come down to was trying to think outside the box, because when it becomes a political game, when all these other government agencies show up, they have a box that they work within. And, and that's great for most things. But what the people needed on the ground needed to come from outside the box thinking, and a little bit of critical thinking involved, because by the time day 3 rolled around, most of the needs were taken care of. Food, shelter, water, we had that. We were making sure people were fed around the clock. 4:30 in the morning flipping burgers didn't matter, just as long as they had a hot food in their belly and a coffee, right? So, we just made sure that we're trying to get stuff for feel-good stuff. There are smokers out there, people that use tobacco products. I don't, but I can appreciate the fact that that's something that would drive somebody nuts if they didn't have any for 2 or 3 days. So, we made some phone calls out to our local biker community, and thank you to all of you, because it's really who kind of came through and showed up with the massive boxes of chewing tobacco and cigarettes and cigars, and I'll tell you, that stuff definitely didn't go unnoticed, because everybody knows where it came from. It came from all you guys and so many other people across the country. Money started flooding into my bank account, e-transfers. I know yours as well. That's how we kind of originally got this started. The outpouring was pretty immense, and the immensity of the situation was just unreal. So people want to help.
And the other thing that I found really interesting, again, coming back to the jobs we individually took on the ground, was how everybody in our core group of 6 worked so well together. I don't think at any point there was ever a time where we weren't totally united in what we were doing down there.
Yeah, I agreed 100%. Everybody knew what their jobs were within the first 12 hours. It didn't. I was only on the ground for about 3 hours, and I was gone. The firefighters dragged me out with them, and I'm glad they did. It was a pretty proud moment for me. It was. Short term when we first got there, it was clear to see how much chaos was really going on and how little help the first responders actually had. So, to be able to jump in there and just to see the smiles on faces I know you were there before we were by a good 12 hours, and, just to get a sandwich in somebody, and that made them pretty happy rather than eating a bloody granola bar, right? That'll get you through in a pinch, but pinches aren't needed on the front lines when these guys got to put out probably 3,000 calories in an 8-hour shift because they're working so hard, guys and girls, and just the feelings of being able to see some smiles on their faces. And Will Skinner, I got to tell you, brother, wow, dude, wow, to be able to have such a wingnut sense of humor, and this guy's in a wheelchair 6 months ago, and now he's keeping everybody on their toes at 2:30 in the morning because you can tell they've had a crappy day, and just to see the smiles on the face by the time they're done at the barbecue was worth every penny to me. I should have got more of that on video.
Exactly. I think morale building is the one thing we really offered them. Yes, the tangible supports, the foot care products, the food for their bellies, a place to lay their head, sharing our cigarettes with them until supply started coming in. All of those things boosted morale for those guys hugely. But there was a lot of, and you alluded to it, chaos on the ground. Those first hours, especially, we got in there May 4th at about midnight, 11:30 actually, when we pulled into Mac Island. And from there, the first 48 hours, there's not a soul in this city except these 250 firefighters, a small handful of truck drivers, a few EMS, and a couple dozen RCMP officers. They had zero support.
Yeah, when Will and I left Grand Prairie, we weren't sure what to expect. I guess I had a little more of an idea than what Will did at the moment. I was trying to fill him in with what we could be prepared for. And, I was expecting to see some type of support on the ground, like whether it be helping with food or handing out these fresh socks that they should have had on the ground. And, there's organizations out there, and I don't think we need to name them. Everybody knows who they are. But they're great at helping people when they're outside of that evacuation area or outside of a danger area, and then you're left with the first responders. And what do they get? They were so poorly supported there. It was actually really quite a crying shame to see. I'm glad that we were there and others were there to help. Probably one of the proudest moments in my life for sure. And I would do it again in a heartbeat without even a question. Wouldn't blink an eye. But things definitely need to change. These other organizations, rhymes with Red Cross or whoever, they need to understand that these people are there. There was no food, there was no water, there was nothing. You need energy in order to go deal with an animal quite the size of that thing. And it was a little disheartening to see that the lack of response, the lack of care that the first responders received in those first 48 to 72 hours.
I know I myself, when we first pulled in there, the fire command in the center of Mac Island had some water, and they had some watermelons and, some other fruit, and that was pretty much it. And you're right, those people need to fuel their bodies. The heat that they deal with, the moisture, it's just atrocious. And you'd see these guys coming in off their rigs and literally just falling to the ground and sleeping on pavement because there's really no other place for them to sleep. Yet the evacuees were all taken care of. And that's as it should be. I'm not looking at the victims as the problem here, but I'm looking at some of the solutions to helping these firefighters. To me, it seemed very crazy. You've got 5 major organizations down on the ground, and yet they're relying on volunteers to look after everybody.
Well, I don't know if I would use the word they're relying, but I think what they are is that they're expecting that what they are doing is enough, and it's not. So, these organizations think that the things that they have in their control that they are currently working on is making sure there's full bellies and socks on feet, and it's not the case. All they're doing is, I want to say a political game. Maybe that's not the right answer. But it's lack of response, lack of being. What they need to do is have somebody that's on the ground at the front lines and see, hey, these guys are eating PB and J. They should have some meat and potatoes or whatever that scenario might have to be. Proper food, and it was just sad to see. They need to come up with some type of a scenario where when there is a major situation like this, hopefully there's not ever again, but I both know that there will be eventually. And when it does come to that, and you've got that many people on the ground, that many mouths to feed, it needs to be met. Medical attention. There was really nothing there. Like the medical guys, EMTs and stuff, paramedics. That's great, but there's certain things that they can't do as well. They only have limited supplies. But there needs to be a scenario where, on a major outbreak like this, some type of a scenario where there needs to be a response team. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. They don't need roasts and strip loins. They need burgers and barbecues, man. Just get out there and get these guys some hot food, guys and girls some hot food. Make sure that their needs are met, because they weren't. They really weren't. And God bless everybody that showed up to help, because if it was just you and I, well, we'd still be not sleeping, right? So it's glad to see the support that for the people that did show up. But there definitely needs to be some changes made.
I couldn't agree more.
Two Hills, Alberta, winner of the inaugural Canada's Most Rider-Friendly Community Contest, home to the Run to the Hills Memorial Rally and Wayside Fallen Riders Park. Two Hills, Alberta, Canada's most rider-friendly community. The Rider-Friendly Business Association, helping you to shop, eat, and play local. www.riderfriendly.ca. The Rider-Friendly Business Association, helping riders find rider-friendly businesses.
Hey everyone, my name is Marnie Thibodeau. I run a home-based business out of Okotoks, Alberta that I call Rocky Mountain Reads. I work on contract as a publisher and a sales rep for Belt Drive Betty Media. I chose this line of work and this company because it has everything to do with what I love. I love motorcycles, I love family, I love riding, and I love people. So technically, this job kind of chose me. And for that, I'm grateful. Every day, every single day, I learn something new. And this is one of them. This is my very first video that I'm making, and I'm learning. So if I look down a lot, I do apologize. I am reading from a script every now and again. I ride because, well, it gives me a sense of calm and freedom. And it's the best form of therapy out there. I've met a lot of people that I'd like some of them to become friends. And some of the friends that I've already made, but through riding, are becoming family. And that's what it's all about. It's all about family and being there for one another and just the camaraderie of riding. I love it. My motivation, yeah, that's the people. That's the ride, the smiles, handshakes, memories. And I also want to leave a good legacy for my kids. Something that they'll be very proud of after I'm gone, and hopefully while I'm still here. I need that for them. I frustrate myself more than anybody. If I'm having trouble doing something, nailing it down, kind of like this video, it's kind of a little bit frustrating. And sometimes when you're out there and you're trying to seal the deal, and people tell you no. It can get frustrating, especially when there's a lot of no's. But that's okay. That's okay, because maybe for every 10 no's, you get 2 yeses. And you never know. You know, you just smile and say, have a great day. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And you just keep going, because you might visit them again down the road and they could say yes. So make it a pleasant experience. It's all good. It's frustrating, but it's good. It's good. You learn that way. And if I was to give someone younger than me some advice on what to do if you're running your own business, tell them to be true to yourself. Don't give up. Always try your best. Don't procrastinate, because it will bite you in the butt if you do. I know from experience. Just you could ask my boss. And be genuine. Be genuine. Nobody likes a phony. Nobody likes a phony.
Now let's switch gears just a little bit. I know for myself, being on the quick line and feeding those sandwiches and coffee and making sure that foot care products and stuff were doled out to everybody, I got a lot of hugs. I had a lot of very heartwarming moments. You know, that very first firefighter that I had fed, and how he grabbed me and hugged me and told me I was his angel, you know.
That's what you're built.
Exactly. All of these little personal moments outside of the door and the interview that you did with CTV over Rebecca. What was your favorite moment? Because inside of all that tragedy, there were some beautiful moments.
Yeah, you know, there were. There's one gentleman, I won't say his name because it's not important to everybody, but there's one moment for me that was pretty emotional, and it was kind of heart-wrenching. But, you know, in the lineup, I don't remember what time of day it was, because the first 2.5 days were really no sleep, so it's all kind of a blur. But he was watching his family farm across the river kind of burn, and, you know, to see a tear come down the man's eyes, but within 20 minutes, we were trying to keep him occupied, you know, and to see a smile on his face after everything, you know, watching the helicopters over there dumping water, and it was all within eye shot. So we got to see that and be part of, you know, not only his loss, but to see, you know, the silver lining that he did understand that everybody was there doing everything that they could, and, you know, he wanted to go help, but it just wasn't possible. And I told him, I said, brother, if you can get on that riverboat and get there to help, I'm in. Let's go. You know, we'll do whatever it takes. I'm in. So, you know, everybody just did what they could. Had a lot of great moments, you know, like the first day, my new buddy Natalie showed up in the Tim Hortons van. I'll tell you, Natalie, awesome girl. You know, just wow, you know, to see the look on everybody's faces when Tim Hortons came in, like what more of a Canadian moment could you want? You know, it was pretty fantastic. So that was one of the highlights for sure.
Yeah, and I think that as we decompress from our time there will be other small moments that come to mind where you go, yeah, that's why I went there. Because I'm a reporter, but I didn't go down there to be a reporter. I went down there to be a volunteer. So my photos are as limited as anybody else's, because our hands were just so full and so busy. There was one other volunteer there, and I talked about him briefly, a character named Dennis.
Yeah.
Now, we'd had some incidences with a different homeless man who was pilfering and going through people's stuff and that kind of thing. Dennis was kind of one of those contradictions that made you take a step back and redefine what you think about people.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair assessment, right?
I would say.
What did you think of Dennis and how hard that man worked?
Well, my very first impression is that he reminded me exactly of the Cuban assassin from WWF circa about 1986. But he had a great big bushy beard on. He was just, you know, loud, outspoken, you know, he reminded everybody that his birthday was May the 3rd, and he didn't even get a beer or a cigarette because everything was closed. So I made sure he got a couple cigarettes and no beers. Unfortunately, I couldn't help him out in that aspect. But for a guy like him, a lot of people have preconceived notions about a homeless people, much the same as people have preconceived notions about somebody who wears a patch on their vest, right? Not all of us are bad guys. Not many of us are bad guys. It's people need to change those stereotypes and understand the amount of work that the biker community in general, and all clubs, big, small ones, everything in between, Christian, 1%, all of them. Everybody works so hard together to make sure. And to the guys who made that happen in Edmonton, no names required. But you know what, guys? I can't say enough of what it actually meant, seeing those faces on the front line, seeing how they were received, and what those items meant to all those people. Like what a bag full of fresh socks could do to somebody's morale for the day. And so that was just amazing. But going back to Dennis, like, the guy absolutely blew me out of the water. Like within 12 hours of meeting him, I'm just like, this is like one of the coolest guys I've ever met, right? And I had my preconceived notions at first, and I thought, I got to smarten up and put that aside. That's crap, and I know it. So I hung on to that and got to know him a little bit, asked some questions, and he was quite the character. At the end of our little term up there, when we left on, I don't remember what date it was, Thursday,
May 12th.
May 12th, I think, yeah. And he asked if he could jump in with us and catch a ride somewhere to a shelter. And I talked to Will and to Jody about it, and I made the decision that, hey, I've got a camper at my place on the acreage out of town. He could give me a hand. I'd pay him a little bit of money for helping me out doing some carpentry stuff and whatever, and he was just a great help. And he didn't want to accept that, but I said basically, kind of tough crap. Yeah, I've already decided and it's happening. So so he lived with us for 2 weeks. We just got him shipped out to Fort Saskatchewan to one of his buddies' places, and he'll be back in Fort Mac by the middle of next week. So great guy.
Yeah, he was, again, I was a little concerned when I first met him. I wasn't sure who this man was. He was very wild-eyed in some ways, and yet, like you said, once you actually sat down and got to know the man, he had a big heart, hard work ethic.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really rewarding to see so many people who had no vested interest in anything but helping someone else, and that is such an epitome of what the motorcycle community is.
The Sports Camera Store in West Edmonton Mall is your one-stop shop for drift and GoPro action cameras. We carry Canada's largest selection of action cam accessories, along with video sunglasses, hidden and surveillance cameras, and more. Visit www.sportscamerastore.com or stop in to our West Edmonton Mall location, lower level by the bay. Moncton, New Brunswick, home of Atlanticade Motorcycle Festival and runner-up community in the inaugural Canada's Most Rider-Friendly Community Contest, sponsored by Community Futures of Alberta. Thinking of starting a new business? Expanding an existing one? What could you do if you had a team? We'll meet your new team.
Hi, I'm Holly Sorgen. I'm the Executive Director. My name is Wanda Shepard. I work in administration.
My name is Sherry Breen. I am the controller.
My name is Leah Holler. I work with Community Futures.
This is Shane Wallace. I'm the contract business analyst.
My name is Janine Harder.
Community Futures, growing communities, one idea at a time.
As a member of the Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Units, our mandate, if you will, is to help others while riding and having fun. And every weekend from now until the end of September, when toy run season is over, and into October out in BC, riders are going to be raising hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. 2015, our charitable contributions topped over $13 million in this country, just from the motorcycle community.
Absolutely.
So that tells you just how strong we really are. And I don't know about you, but I was getting email transfers from people as far away as Newfoundland and all the way. We had support from the Red Knights out of Victoria, BC. Their secretary got in touch with another guy who had a truck. She started gathering supplies. People from all over Vancouver Island participated. And then they drove the stuff up to us.
Yeah.
what kind of support did you see? Was yours national as well?
Absolutely. I reached out on social media, namely Facebook for the most part, and the response was huge. One of my brothers, Bear, love you, buddy, haven't seen you for a long time, see you in a while. He's down from Pahrump, Nevada. He reached out, he's like, how do I e-transfer? I don't know how to work this crap. So, we just ended up doing, PayPal or whatever. And so he sent me some money for that. He's like, I don't care what it's for, just use it as you need, as you see fit. And I was like, okay, man. So I think it bought cigarettes, so hopefully he didn't mind. But, a good friend of mine, Isabel Durant from Sherbrooke, Quebec, she went to work. She's a waitress, bartender in a pub. And she put a tip jar on the bar, and raised a whole bunch of money that way. And that was awesome too, getting all these types of things coming in, and the way that they were brought in sometimes, just insane. There was one young couple, and for the life of me at the moment, I can't remember their names right now, so I apologize. I'll think of it later and I'll send it. But they showed up it was in Alberta, and they showed up with a gooseneck dump trailer, and the thing was full, and they had the tarp over top. They got done. And when they were done, they had to move all the salt blocks to the back and strap them down. And I remember starting to laugh. I was like, only in Alberta are you bringing a bunch of donations and have to re-strap down your salt blocks, right? I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever. The same day that the Hutterites so generously donated all of the meat and vegetables and everything from Wetaskiwin. So, it's not just one group of people in general. Like the bikers did a very, very large majority of so many of the things that did come in. But it was the whole entire, province and country, and it was pretty heartwarming and uplifting to be a part of that. My back hurt because there were so many things that we had to unload, and we were back there busting our humps. And to the people who owned the forklift and the skid steer that were there, sorry. I'm just going to leave it at that.
And you're right, Jeremy, I mean, we had people from Whitecourt, people from the riding community there, people from St. Albert, sheriffs from Wetaskiwin that ride, riders from Provost. Now, Kimmy and Tony and that trailer that they lent. Hey, how nice was that to get a real sleep?
Well, after sleeping on 1/4-inch thick yoga mats for the first while on hardwood floors in a fitness studio with 15 other people, whatever it was, maybe it was not that high, but it was enough it was nice to be able to go turn the furnace on in the camper and have some music going and just relax. We actually played a game of cards the one night and just got to veg for an hour, and then it was like bed on a mattress and slept gloriously for, all of 3.5 hours, but it was the best sleep I'd had since we got there, and I was gonna take it. So.
Yeah, and I know the guys from Rapid Fire who ended up ultimately through you being able to use Kimmy and Tony's trailer, they also enjoyed it, and it gave their whole fire team a whole new lease on life, being able to get that 7 or 8 hours of sleep.
Never really meant that much to me. Now it's burned right into history, stranded there in our memories. Highway 63, it was all we had, it was everything. We were caught in wildfire. Lines using roughneck hands. We thought it was our destiny. Now it looks like hell on the CBC. Caught in wildfire. Still hard to believe that anything exists when you stare right into the apocalypse. Can't stop the shifting winds or the crashing tides. It's all burning down, just take a look outside. We're caught in wildfire. Caught in wildfire. We never thought we'd leave these crazy to set you free. All you can do is fight and inspire. All you can do is keep this desire. All you can do is join in the choir. All we can do is sing it with fire. Highway 63 never really meant that much to me. Now we see it right into history, stranded there in our memory. Highway 63, it was all we had, it was everything. Highway 63, Highway 63. Highway 63, we still feel the flames.
That's all our time this week, folks. Next week, we finish off our discussion with Jeremy Hall.